Hello and welcome to How to Design Your Dragon. I've done a few dragons in my time. This is one I did earlier, in 1983 when we were running a software company. So there's a lot of fantasy art involved with that, and I've done a few dragons in my time because we played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. So this is one which I had done initially. The actual artwork was done in crayon, so it's very finely detailed. I could get all the scales right, and I was quite proud of that one. This is what the poster was going to look like. So this was room for all our products up there. Um, and this is also one of our adverts when we could only afford black and white. But again, I've done dragons and gargoyles and goodness knows what else, and Dungeons and Dragons, obviously. I just want to show you a few things about designing a dragon. It's good to go back to actual sources. So this is, if you can focus, can you focus? Please focus. This is a Chinese dragon. There's a series of paintings which are rather good, all painted in 1244, which I think they're rather friendly dragons, and they're up playing in the clouds. And then here we have, this is a Japanese dragon. He looks a little bit worried and old. But you want to think about the mythology of dragons and where they come from. They do stretch across cultures. Here's a Chinese dragon. And you can see it's got anatomy, and they're more worm-like than the Western dragons. Here's Noggin the Nog's dragon. This is a very sad-looking dragon. And here we are again, a happy-looking dragon. But they all have to have proper anatomy that sort of works. The Welsh dragon, which, again, you can look at the anatomy of this, and this is from the mythology, having arms and legs and wings. This is from How to Train Your Dragon, and it's noticeable that they based this one, this is the hero dragon, on a cat, really, which is not how I see a dragon at all, but it made it very cute. Here's a Komodo dragon, which is pretty grisly, but to go back to reptiles, to go back to a natural source, that is a good way to start to design anything fantasy creatures. Here's a Dungeons and Dragons dragon, which obviously looks very fierce. And here we are, Ivor the Engine, with his little Welsh dragon doing the powering his little railway. When I was designing my first dragon, you have to start somewhere. So I have here, so looking at reptiles and how their skin and their scales work, the pattern of their scales, the pattern of their patterns. And here we have a rather lovely little picture of a baby crocodile. And I thought he's so sweet, so I actually drew this. So I've got that source in my brain now, and then I can transfer that to being a fantasy creature. And here we have a crocodile. Also horses. I remember Anne McCaffrey in her Dragon Rider series, she does describe dragons like horses. And horses are very elegant. I do like an elegant dragon. I don't want them, well, they should be fierce, I suppose, but I don't want them to be ugly. There's a lot of very ugly dragons around at the moment. So I just did this sketch of a horse as well, just so that it's in my brain that how this elegant long nose looks and how their eyes work. So to actually do sketches from nature, and then that will inform your future dragon drawing, one hopes. So the trick with this one is to use layout paper, because you're drawing a fantasy creature. And I did do a little sketch here of how I might want my dragon to look. So I'm going to do, if you can see it, a gesture drawing. So here I am with the dragon I quickly sketched, but you saw there were various layers of layout paper to get to this point. And the trick is to be able to do that gesture drawing to get energy into your pose, and by doing lots of scribbling. So here we are. So this is my final drawing, and then what I did, I transferred it to watercolor paper using Trace Down, which is posh paper, carbon paper for artists, and that's quite useful to have in your kit. It's quite expensive, but it is useful. It's just like graphite, and you can rub it out. So here we are. This is the Trace Down image, but I wanted to have a bit of background to it, so I just did a quick wet in wet painting. In fact, it's still damp. Of this is pretty much indigo, which I'm just wet in wet, creating sort of clouds and sky effect, one hopes, and trying to be neat around here, although it's not madly neat. You can use masking fluid to do that kind of thing, but I thought I'd just crack on and do that, because that would be a lot of masking fluid, because this is A2, so it is quite big. So I'm going to use pretty much a red palette for my dragon, because dragons should be red. Maybe it's because I'm Welsh, but dragons should definitely be red. So I'm just going to start painting, And what I'm going to do is use watercolour principles. I'm going to use the biggest brush I can bear to use, which is this one, which I suppose is quite big, and I'm going to paint light to dark. So I want to get the light areas, so I've got a nice yellow here. I'm going to paint some light areas of yellow, referring to my previous dragon, and I'm just going to go on here and paint those light areas. And I might use a bit of quinacridone gold, because that's a really nice colour too. So I'm just painting some nice light areas of dragon, using the biggest brush I can bear to use, painting in my pale yellow, and I'm going to, it's a bit dark, but on the other hand, watercolours always dry lighter than you think, but I want to have that nice lightness going on there, and probably have a little bit of yellow in the face as well. Oops, a bit dirty, so I'm just going to pick up this yellow, and maybe have something going on here to have his horns a slightly different colour. I think I'm going to add a little bit more, a little bit of red in there as well. So we can have a, so while it's wet, you can see the colours sort of blend. And I'm just going to add a bit more water to that. And here, ooh, I think we want a little bit of orange, maybe a bit of that. So a little bit of orange here as well. Just have something nice and pale, so you can get this nice colour blending. Whoop, there's a lot of water in there. And then, oh, I think I want a bit more yellow in there actually. A little bit of yellow, just here. And then I'm going to start thinking about making, doing something to this. So while it's still damp, I can lighten areas, and I'm just going to take a slightly darker yellow, practically an orange, and put that in there to give those bands a little bit more oomph. And over here, just here, whoa, it's gone a bit too dark. I'm just going to add some water, maybe take that colour on, just to give him a bit more three-dimensionality. I'm going to add some water here to lighten it there, using my kitchen towel to take water off and put it on my kitchen towel. And again, I just want to darken that area there. I think that needs to be done. So you can do a lot with watercolour while it's still wet. So this is just damp at the moment, I think. So I'm just going to lift off a bit there. And add a bit here. Yeah. And then again here. And then I need to lift some off. So I'm getting that idea that this is a three-dimensional creature. And I know with watercolour you can paint dark over light, so I'm just going to grab that, lift it off, and put a little bit more definition in here. And there we go. This, by the way, is rough Fabriano paper, which is absolutely my favourite kind of paper. And this is a pre-stretched block. It has gone a bit crinkly because I have used quite a lot of water on this when I was doing my wet in the wet. And if you've got something that's a little bit crinkly, you can actually just spray it on the back and then press it under something like the Encyclopedia Britannica, and it will be fine. Time to get some clean kitchen towel. And I'm just going to wet this in the vague hope something might happen. So I was just trying to clear up my blob, so I'm just wetting that a bit and then hoping that won't show. Right, back to doing the dragon's tummy. So again, we're just going to go up here, whoops, and then lift off some here, and here as well, getting that idea of this dragon having a three-dimensional form. So I just want to lift a bit of that off. And it's raining outside. Right, and then a little bit here, there. And I might leave that to see what it looks like in the fullness of time, because watercolours do tend to change on you when you're not looking at them. I think I'll leave that And then I'm going to use the biggest brush I can bear to use and start thinking about doing these wings. So I'm going to pick up this very strong red, I think this is cadmium red, and make up a good wash, use the biggest brush I can bear to use, and I'm going to go in here and paint that lovely red. These are tube watercolours, so they give an extra punch, and there's going to be quite a lot of painting here. And what I might do is add some yellow in there as well. So I'm just going to perhaps get the fingers to be the deep red and leave the claw for later. And press that down there, and then I'm going to mix up a lot of this and some yellow to paint the in-between bits. Oops, maybe that yellow? Yeah, let's go for that yellow. So again, to have this nice contrast between deep yellow and a nice golden colour. And as I say, you can do a lot with watercolour while it's still wet, so you have to paint quite quickly, especially in this style. I think my patience might have disappeared over the years, because I do like to paint watercolours quickly, because I like to do the wet and wet thing, trying to keep to that line. And then I'm going to pick up some slightly darker, purer red and just go in here, there, to emphasise the sort of fingery things, like here. And there we're getting a nice soft blend between the different reds in there and the yellows. So again, so I'm picking up this nice orange, it's got some yellow in it here for the wing. There we go. So that's sort of the wing, and then some of that red here for the arm. So I'm going to actually add some more of this darker red. Oh, I wonder what that one does. Ooh, whoops, I need something stronger, maybe that. So I actually can model things while things are still wet. So I want to have that idea of that arm casting a shadow. Oops, now I'm fiddling. And then, oops, I've done it again. I really want to put my water pot in a better place. Maybe I'll leave some kitchen towel there so I stop getting blots on my painting. And then I want to do the next wing, so again I'm picking up this nice cadmium red and I'm going to put that on down the struts of the arms. That's a very nice colour. This is, as I say, cadmium red, and I'm just going to try and be quite neat. Oops. And put that on like that, and then this comes down here, look, or not, and then mix that red with some yellow to get that nice colour in between, that nice orangey gold colour. So painting very quickly to get the watercolour to do what it's best at is when it does this blending thing. So while it's still wet, that cadmium red will blend with this nice lighter colour and create almost a form, one hopes. Maybe I'll ignore that finger. I think it's extraneous. I just want to go around there and be reasonably neat. I think, yes, if I was painting this by myself, I would try and be a little bit neater. I mean, for myself, be a little bit neater. Do we want the tongue? Oh, maybe not, I don't know. Right, and that's all wet, so that will blend nicely. We're getting this nice fiery orange. And then you want to, that brush has just got away from me, so I just want to have a little kind of idea of this goes in and out. So again, I want some strong red up there, just like that. Oops. A bit more yellow here. Try and be a little bit neat. now I want to add that stronger, darker red down here. There we go, that's tougher than the other one. Let's try that one. I think that's Elysian Crimson, which can be a bit feeble. Ooh. Just on the edges, and then have the arm defined here as well. Okay, damn, I wish I hadn't put that in now, but I suppose I'm committed, so let's go for it. So you're getting the idea of this nice blending of the watercolours. Right, so I think I better do the legs and the tail now. So I'm going to switch to a slightly smaller brush and think about what the legs do. So again, I'm going to use this as my basic colour, this nice bright cadmium red, and I'm just going to go in on the top and think about what the knees might do, and then use that nice orange, to create volume. And then I suppose I need to do these claws. There we go. Leaving the claws for later. And pick up some yellow. Pop that underneath so it blends. And then pop that here so it looks more three-dimensional. But I think I probably need a bit of the deeper reds, like this one, to add even more. There we go. Maybe even a kneecap. And then I just want to pick up that darker red to give the top of the claws a bit of darkness. And then I just realised that's a bit ragged. Just want to smooth that out. While it's still wet, you can do a lot. And then I'm going to do the same for the other leg. And here we go. So this deep, deep cadmium red as the main colour. And then adding darker reds and yellows to give it a little bit more form. Yeah, and then I want some here. Here we go. And look, I've still got my kneecap going on there. So I just want to pop in there. And picking up that yellow, which I don't run out of. So let's try that yellow. Just to give it a little bit more form. And then picking up my darker red, which I'm pretty sure is Elysian Crimson. Just want to get quite a punchy wash out of it. There we go, colour mixing nicely, and just add that darker red in certain areas to almost give it a kneecap, one hopes, and some form to the claws. Okay, maybe have a bit, oh no, now I'm fiddling, have a bit going on there. I wonder what colour that is. Well, that's a bit of a magenta. I think I need a bit more form in there, and while it's still wet, it will do a lot for you, and still give it a kneecap. Right, oh, I took away my kitchen towel from up there. Put another bit there, just so I don't ruin the whole thing. I'm just looking, I think I still want something darker here. Okay, and hope the fiddling is not going to do too much. I'm just going to soften that edge. Okay, and you can see it is drying paler than what I thought it was going to be. So now I'm going to do, I suppose, the neck and the head. You can see this looks actually quite pale now, but I do want it pale. And again, so I'm going to pick up this nice cadmium red, and I need a bigger brush. There it is. So I need a bigger brush. And then I want to go in here and paint that, although I don't know if this brush is big enough. And I do want a bit more heft and oomph. I want it darker on the top, so I'm picking up this darker red to go there. And there we go. And then going back to my original red, sort of blending that in. I think I need a little bit more of the original red. And depends how detailed you want to get with your dragon, so they should have scales, but I don't think I've got time to do each individual scale. But I do want to get that head, this nice red. I want it to be different from the background, so I am going to darken it down a little bit. Or maybe that red will do it. I want to be able to darken it down a little bit. So I do need a smaller brush for the fiddlier bits, just down here, and there, and there. Ooh, I want that darker red here, I think. And then I'm going to go to maybe some pure yellows and flood them in here to just give it a little bit of lightness around its little nosy. Yeah, I think I need a darker red for that. Just here. And there we go. So I think, and again I want to put a little bit of form with my Wet n Wet, mixing up some of the darker red here to have that going down there, and you can get some really nice effects with Wet n Wet, but you do have to paint like the clappers. And some of this red just here. So it's going to be, maybe I think to differentiate it from the wings, picking up some of this darker red. I did have this crazy idea you could actually create scales by dropping things in. Let's give it a go, see what happens. You never know till you try. So I could actually have some scales here of the darker red. Although now it looks like it's got measles. But as I'm painting this really quickly, just what an effect, really. And then I'm going to paint the tail again, so I'm using my base colour of the cadmium red, and I will try and paint the tail. So that's why it's useful to have that big puddle of wash left over, so I can just grab it when I need it and go down here. And I think I want that slightly deeper red just here. There we go. Eek. Right. And maybe have some shadows going on. So a little bit more yellow, I think, so I'll put some yellow in here to lighten that area, and then pick up with a smaller brush some of this darker red and just pop that there so it differentiates with the other one. And then this is all rather wet, so I think I might have to wait for it to dry before I carry on. So here we are, the paint's dried a bit, so I now need to refine some details. So I'm just going to finish off, the taily bit. So here again I want that to be nice and light, that nice light yellow. And I'm going to bump up my bands a bit because they dried quite pale, so I want to have this idea of the light beneath. So I'm just adding a little bit of actually pure yellow, and I'm adding it on here and then softening the edge with water. Again, pure yellow to get a little bit more depth. And here, There's nothing there. And softening the edge with water. Let's keep going. And I want to soften that edge. And here, oops, I need some actual yellow to do that. And softening that edge. And again, and again, and again. So now I've run out of yellow. Right. There we go. And I'm going to soften those edges with water. Now I think this dragon needs a bit of life, and the life is in the eyes. So I want to be able to refer to my nice little baby crocodile eye and really try and get that eye to have a bit of life in it. So I'm going to pick up a lemon yellow because I think I want the colour of the eye to be that, but I do want to have a gleam. Little gleam in the eye, and then I want some, I suppose, darker bits here, and then I'm going to keep that gleam, and then add a little bit of Payne's Grey, tiny bit of Payne's Grey, I hope, to have a bit of shadow above the eye, just to see, make it seem more eye-like. Yeah, don't fiddle. And then I suppose I ought to think about the mouth. Perhaps I should think about a fang. So let's have his mouth quite fiery. Oops, I want a bit more oomph to go with that. Give him a fang. And another fang. Oh damn, that's still wet. Damn. Just going to blend that in. And have a bit more pure yellow in there to emphasise the fang. I'm going to have to wait for the eyeball to dry now, but what I can do is actually add a little bit more depth to the, I don't know, eyelashes, horns, I don't know what you want to call them. So have that going on, and maybe give it a little red tongue, maybe, just to bring out the fang. Right. And I suppose a tiny bit of Payne's Grey, I think, for shadow. Tiny bit of Payne's Grey for shadow, just in here maybe. And a little bit more, just there. So we've got a nice fang. Maybe finish off his mouth, going around the corner. And then a bit of Payne's Grey for a nostril. So have a nostril. Woo! It's a bit dark. So let's soften up with a bit of that red to give it a bit more form. And a tiny bit of Payne's Grey over here. And then I'm going to actually fiddle around with adding a little bit more depth to this one. Now it's blending into the background. I kind of like that little twiddle I managed to leave in. And I think I need a bit of Payne's Grey to define the mouth a bit better. And down here as well. So it's almost like drawing with a brush, and then we want a pupil. There's a bit of Payne's Grey. Ooh. There we go, it's looking suitably scary. I might have to go back and make that a little bit darker as well. And so the other thing is that I've got these claws up here. And again, I think I'm going to use Payne's Grey as a wash, just to give it a bit of definition. Oops, that's too pale. Let's have a look. So we're just trying to define those claws. And this one as well. A little bit more Payne's Grey. And if you make things angular, oops, that's not entirely what I wanted to do, you get a more dynamic shape. rather than smoothing off edges and things. So I'll just put those claws in there. And that eye definitely needs something. I wonder if that's going to have enough left in it to be the something I need. Oh yeah, that's not too bad. So it's just a quick dragon, but go to nature when you're doing something fantastical. Try and get a reference from nature, or saying that, plagiarise a well-known author. That's what I always used to do. A well-known artist, I should say. So there's my dragon. I hope you enjoy making up your own creatures, but as I say, I like a nice friendly dragon rather than one that looks so stern. So we're off for a couple of weeks, so who knows what we're going to do next.